What if the most dangerous thing you ever received fit in the palm of your hand? Today's story, a small package of big problems, will take you on a dark journey where a mysterious delivery becomes a nightmare no one asked for. Sometimes, the smallest packages contain the deadliest secrets. I'm Jack from Red Media, and I've crafted this thriller to keep you on the edge of your seat. Every twist, every revelation will leave you questioning. Would you open that package? But before we dive in, if you enjoy original thriller content like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. And if you want to support the channel and get the full written text of this story, head over to my Ko-Fi page, link in the description below. Now let's begin. The rain wasn't just falling, it was trying to wash the city off the map. It came down in solid, wind-driven sheets that turned the neon glow of the skyline into a watercolor nightmare. Marco hunched the collar of his worn leather jacket, the damp already seeping through to his skin. His courier bike, a beat-up but reliable beast he'd nicknamed the Mule, was chained to a rusted pole under the meager shelter of a bus stop awning. He was on foot tonight. The client had insisted. $5,000. That was the number echoing in his head, drowning out the drumming of the rain. $5,000 for a pickup in the penthouse of the Aegis Tower and a drop-off in the old warehouse district. A 20-minute ride, max. It was the kind of money that made you overlook the red flags. The first was the address. The second was the lack of a name. The third was the woman herself, Ilara. She'd opened the door to the penthouse not with a smile, but with a look of clinical assessment, as if he were a component she was considering for installation. The apartment was minimalist to the point of being sterile. All white surfaces, sharp angles, and a panoramic view of the drowning city. "You're Marco," she'd stated. It wasn't a question. "That's what the ad says," he'd replied, trying for a bit of his usual charm. It had bounced off her like rain off glass. She didn't offer him a seat, just gestured to a small, lead-lined box on a chrome table. "The package is inside. You will deliver it to the coordinates I've sent to your phone. You will not, under any circumstances, open the box. You will not let it out of your sight. You will not be late." Tight schedule, huh? What is it, a kidney for a billionaire? A secret formula for a better-tasting tofu? Ilara's lips thinned. "It is a container of considerable instability. Stability is paramount, Mr. Marco. For everyone." She'd used his last name. He hadn't given it. That was the fourth red flag, but by then the $5,000 was screaming too loud to listen. He'd taken the box. It was surprisingly heavy for its size, no bigger than a shoebox, and it felt cold, even through his gloves. Now, standing on the corner of 4th and Main, the box tucked securely inside his waterproof courier bag, the first tendrils of real fear began to snake their way up his spine. The streetlights flickered, not in the usual, tired city way, but violently, as if someone was slamming a switch on and off. A deep, resonant hum vibrated up from the bag, a sound so low it felt more like a pressure in his bones than a noise in his ears. Great, Marco thought, shifting the bag. Not just a package. A singing package. What's next? It tells jokes. He checked the phone. The destination was a defunct subway entrance on the edge of the warehouse district. Perfect. Creepy and isolated. Just what every dark, rainy night needed. A black sedan, too clean for the weather, slid to a stop across the street. Its headlights cut through the downlight, pinning him in a stark, white glare. The driver's side door opened. A man in a dark trench coat got out, his face lost in shadow. He didn't rush. He didn't shout. He just started crossing the street, his steps deliberate and unhurried. That was it. The fifth and final flag. Time to go. Marco didn't hesitate. He broke into a sprint, his worn-out sneakers slapping against the slick pavement. He dodged a garbage can, skidded around a corner, and plunged into the mouth of a narrow alley. The smell of wet brick and rotting refuse filled his nostrils. The hum from the bag intensified, thrumming against his back like a trapped, angry heart. Behind him, he heard the measured footsteps of the man in the trench coat. No panic. No heavy breathing. Just the steady, relentless thump-thump-thump of expensive leather on wet concrete. Marco risked a glance back. The man was a silhouette against the alley's entrance, a tall, featureless shape. He wasn't even running. He was walking, as if he knew Marco had nowhere to go. The alley was a dead end. A brick wall, slick with rain and covered in faded graffiti, loomed 20 feet ahead. A rusted fire escape clung to the wall, its ladder pulled up too high to reach. Think, Marco, think. His eyes darted around. A dumpster, overflowing. He ran to it, planted a foot on a half-crushed cardboard box, and leaped. His fingers caught the cold, wet metal edge of the dumpster. He hauled himself up, the muscles in his arms screaming in protest. From this new vantage point, he could just reach the bottom rung of the fire escape. As his fingers closed around the rung, a sound from the bag made him freeze. It wasn't a hum anymore. It was a tap. A single, sharp, metallic click. Click. It came from inside the lead line box, inside the bag. Click, click. It was rhythmic now, a slow, deliberate tapping, like something was testing the walls of its prison. Click, click, click. Marco scrambled up the fire escape, his movements clumsy with fear. He didn't dare look down, but he could feel the man's eyes on him. He reached the first landing, his lungs burning, and risked a look over the edge. The man in the trench coat stood at the base of the fire escape, looking up. His face was still in shadow, but Marco could feel the intensity of his gaze. He made no move to climb. Then the rain changed. It had been a downpour. Now it was a deluge. The water in the alley rose with impossible speed, churning from the drains in a reverse torrent. In seconds, the bottom of the alley was a roiling, knee-high river of black water, carrying trash and debris. The man in the trench coat stood impassively as the water swirled around his legs. "What the hell?" Marco breathed. The tapping from the bag stopped. The hum returned, louder, angrier. The fire escape groaned under him, a long, protesting screech of stressed metal. The brick wall beside him seemed to shimmer, the mortar lines wavering like heat haze. This wasn't right. This wasn't weather. This was a reaction. The package was doing this. Instability, Alara had said. Stability is paramount. He had to get rid of it. No, he couldn't. The $5,000 was gone, replaced by a primal urge to survive. But abandoning it felt wrong, dangerous in a way he couldn't articulate. It was like holding a live grenade and realizing the pin was already loose. You don't just drop it and run. You try to contain the blast. The water kept rising, lapping at the first landing of the fire escape. The man in the trench coat was now waist-deep, still unmoving, still watching. Marco made a choice. He couldn't go down. He had to go up. He climbed, his hands slick with rain, the bag thumping against his back. The fire escape swayed precariously, its bolts groaning in the brick. The entire structure felt like it was about to tear itself free from the building. He reached the roof, a flat, gravel-strewn expanse slick with rain. The wind howled, whipping the water into a frenzy. He ran across the roof, leaped the narrow gap to the next building, and kept moving. He was a rat in a maze of wet steel and brick, the hound of the man in the trench coat behind him and the demon in his bag leading the way. The subway entrance was just ahead, a gaping hole in the street leading down into darkness. A rusted sign read "Riverside Line, closed." It was his destination, his only hope of losing the pursuer and maybe, just maybe, figuring out what to do with the goddamn cube. He slid down the rain-slicked access ramp, his feet finding no purchase. He landed hard at the bottom, jarring his teeth. The air down here was thick with the smell of ozone, damp concrete, and decay. It was cold, a deep, earthy cold that seeped into his bones. The only light came from the flickering emergency lamps, casting long, dancing shadows that made the darkness feel alive. He pulled the bag around and fumbled with the clasps. He had to see it. He had to know what $5,000 and a potential apocalypse looked like. He opened the lead-lined box. Inside, nestled on a bed of black foam, was a small black metal cube. It was about 4 inches to a side, perfectly seamless, with no visible markings, buttons, or seams. It was so black it seemed to absorb the dim light around it, a hole in the world. And it was vibrating, a low, powerful thrum that resonated through the foam, into the box, into his hand. As he watched, a faint, violet light pulsed from within its depths, a slow, rhythmic heartbeat. Click. The sound came again, but this time it wasn't a tap. It was a crack, like a glacier calving, but impossibly small, coming from inside the cube itself. A sudden, violent tremor shook the station. Dust rained down from the arched ceiling. The fluorescent lights on the platform flickered and died, plunging him into near-total darkness, save for the cube's ethereal violet glow. Marco. The voice was calm, cultured, and echoed slightly in the cavernous space. It was the man from the alley. He was standing at the far end of the platform, a tall figure silhouetted against the faint light from the street entrance above. He hadn't made a sound. "You have something that doesn't belong to you," the man said, taking a step forward. "Or rather, you have something that belongs to everyone, and it needs to be handled with care." "Yeah, well, your client didn't mention the part about it turning the city into a water park." Marco shot back, his voice tight with adrenaline. He slammed the lead box shut, the sound swallowed by the oppressive silence. The cube's hum seemed to protest, growing louder. "Ilara is impatient," the man said. "She sees the potential, not the peril. My organization prefers a more measured approach." He was closer now, his features becoming visible in the dim glow. He was older than Marco had thought, with sharp, intelligent eyes and a face that looked like it had been carved from granite. "My name is Silas. Give me the cube. This can all be over." "Over? Or just beginning for you?" Marco backed away, his hand closing around the handle of the lead box. "The deal was to deliver it." "The deal has changed," Silas said, his voice losing its placid edge. "The anomaly is becoming active. It's reacting to the city's grid, the geothermal pressure, to you. You're an unstable element, courier." Another tremor, this one stronger. A deep, grinding groan came from the tunnel walls. Cracks spiderwebbed across the tiled ceiling. The cube in the box was going wild. The violet light was strobing violently, and the hum had risen to a deafening whine. The box was getting hot in Marco's hand. Silas lunged. He was faster than he looked. Marco twisted away, but Silas's hand caught the strap of the courier bag. They grappled, a clumsy, desperate dance on the edge of the platform. The bag slipped from Marco's shoulder, the lead box tumbling out. It hit the concrete platform with a metallic clang. The lid sprang open. The black cube rolled out, coming to a stop a few feet away. For a moment, everything was still. The cube sat there, silent, dark. Then it screamed. It wasn't a sound of air and vocal cords. It was a psychic shriek, a wave of pure, unadulterated force that slammed into Marco and Silas, throwing them back. The violet light erupted from the cube, no longer a soft pulse but a blinding, furious glare. And the world broke apart. The entire subway station convulsed. The ceiling, weakened by the tremors, finally gave way. Tons of concrete, steel rebar, and earth crashed down onto the platform. The sound was apocalyptic, a deafening roar of destruction that swallowed everything. Marco rolled, instinct taking over. He dove behind a concrete bench, curling into a ball as debris rained down around him. He felt a sharp pain in his leg as a chunk of concrete pinned it. He cried out, the sound lost in the chaos. He risked a look. Silas was trapped, his leg crushed by a fallen support beam. He was reaching for the cube, his face a mask of desperation and fury. But the cube was already being swallowed by the collapsing floor. It fell into the darkness of the subway tunnel below, its violet light receding into the abyss. The shaking subsided. The screaming stopped. All that was left was the sound of dripping water, groaning metal, and the weak, pained gasps of Silas. Marco tried to move his leg. Pain shot through him, white-hot and blinding. It was broken. Or worse, he was trapped. "You fool!" Silas coughed, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. "You had no idea what you were carrying. It's a key. And a weapon. It rewrites reality on a local scale, tunes itself to its environment. And you just dropped it into the city's nervous system." Marco stared at the hole in the floor, the dark maw of the tunnel. The faint violet glow was still visible down there, pulsing softly. A new sound began to rise from the depths, a low guttural churning, the sound of rushing water. "The old riverside line," Silas rasped, his eyes wide with a terror that was finally genuinely human. "It runs right under the riverbed." Marco's blood ran cold. The cube was in the tunnel, and the tunnel was about to become a part of the river. He had to get out. He looked at his trapped leg, then at the unconscious or dying Silas. There was no help coming. No one knew he was here. He grabbed a twisted piece of rebar, its sharp end jagged. He looked at his leg, at the concrete pinning it. He took a deep breath, the air thick with dust and the smell of his own fear. "This is going to suck." He jammed the rebar under the slab of concrete, using it as a lever. He pushed with all his might, his muscles screaming, his vision blurring with pain. The concrete slab lifted, just enough. He pulled his leg free. The pain was excruciating, a white-hot fire that consumed him. He screamed, a raw, guttural sound. He looked down. His foot was twisted at an unnatural angle. Useless. The sound of rushing water was louder now, a deafening roar. The floor of the platform was beginning to sag. Water was starting to seep up through the cracks. He crawled. He dragged himself across the rubble-strewn platform, his useless leg trailing behind him. The emergency lights flickered back on for a moment, casting the scene in a hellish red glow. He saw the ramp leading up to the street. Freedom, so close yet so far. He crawled, his hands raw and bleeding, his breath coming in ragged sobs. The water was up to his knees now, cold and filthy. The platform was breaking apart, sinking into the churning torrent below. He reached the base of the ramp. He grabbed the handrail and pulled himself up, one agonizing inch at a time. He didn't look back. He didn't think about Silas. He didn't think about the $5,000. He just thought about the feeling of rain on his face. He burst out onto the street, collapsing onto the wet pavement. The rain was still falling, but it felt gentle now, a cleansing shower. He had made it. He lay there for a long time, just breathing. Then he pushed himself up, his broken leg sending a fresh wave of agony through him. He had to move. He had to get away. He looked back at the ruined subway entrance. It was no longer an entrance. It was a waterfall, a churning vortex of water, debris, and something else. A faint, violet light pulsed from within the torrent, a steady, rhythmic beat. The problem wasn't solved. It had just been flushed. He started to limp away, leaning against the wall for support. He was a courier, and his last delivery had failed spectacularly. But he was alive, for now. He didn't know where he was going. He just knew he had to keep moving, because somewhere, in the dark, waterlogged veins of the city, a small black cube was waiting, and it was starting to sing a new song. And that's where our story ends? Or does it? The thing about small packages is you never know when another one might arrive. If you enjoyed A Small Package of Big Problems, you can grab the full written text on my Ko-Fi page. Your support keeps this channel going and helps me create more original thriller stories for you. Link is right there in the description. What would you have done if you'd received that package? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Read Media for more original thriller stories and other readings. Hit that notification bell so you're the first to know when the next mystery drops. This is Jack from Read Media. Stay curious, stay cautious, and I'll see you in the next story.